All right. How is everybody today? Good. Do you all want to put in the chat maybe where you're from, just as we wait for some other people to join in all over? Denver, Texas. Just looking at Texas. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to watch the eclipse from, which we will talk about. Allie, can you hear me okay? Is everything sound-wise good?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay,
And
great.
hope everyone else can hear. Maybe we can get some thumbs up if everyone else can hear Joel and me.
Yeah. Oh, there they are. Well, welcome everyone. I'm happy to see everybody. And for those of you watching this on the recording, hi to you too. We're sending out the recording sometime tomorrow morning. For those of you on the call, you can rewatch everything if you want. I will be going over the major themes of this year. There's quite a bit going on, so you probably want to have a notepad handy just so you can maybe write some things down. I'm going to give some key dates for certain things. I always like to preface all of this with like, above all, we have free will, right? So I'm going to go over the astrology, the themes, different transits, but always know that like we have a choice. We're not just beholden to the energy of the universe, right? So I always like to say that. And, I say that often. Obviously, I believe in astrology and I believe in working with the energy of the universe, but we're co-creating with it and we're working with it. It's not like controlling us. That's why I'm not into like the doomsday astrology or this is going to happen or that's going to happen. It's just very like this is the energy that's available. We can harness some of it. This is how you may be affected by it. This may just kind of explain some of the things that we may see or feel within ourselves or others over this year. So, it just gives us understanding and kind of names it. I think that's a really nice thing about astrology and this type of work is it just kind of like names the energy and what's going on. And so if we're feeling it, it can help us understand that. It's like gives us this lens to view ourselves through and the universe through. But we do have some major themes happening. There's a lot going on. You may feel it already. You're definitely going to start feeling it on the 27th, 28th for some of you, especially those of you in Australia. I'll say that also really quick. If you're on that side of the world, like past UTC, a lot of the dates I say will actually be the next day for you because, in Australia, you're like 15 hours ahead of me in California. So most of the dates and times I give are PT, Pacific time. So if you were in Australia, it's probably the next day, not always, but most of the time. So in any event, we are starting out with a lot of action this year. It's an 8-year, nothing to do with astrology and numerology, universal 8-year. It's a year of action. It's a year of a lot of personal power, a lot of feeling your authentic vibration. So who are you in this world? What are you here to do? How are you showing up for yourself? How are you showing up for others? How do you want to show up? Right. So it's very much about understanding who you are and your power. There's also a lot of air and a lot of fire in this year. And that basically means that, when you have fire, right? So fire, you have earth below it, and then you have air above it, right? When we have a lot of air on fire, it tends to make the fire and the flames go out of hand, kind of go crazy. So it's very important to ground yourself this year and to have practices connecting with nature, daily meditation, breath work, so that when you get caught up in this energy of movement, this energy of forward motion, this energy of action, you have something to return to. You have a sturdy and stable foundation, right? So you want to ground your fire, right? So we've got this fire, we've got the air. We need to ground the base. You need to give yourself a base. That's going to be really important. If you have a sturdy base, you'll be able to make significant changes, leaps and bounds in your life this year. This is a year of action. This is a year of taking risks. This is a year of expansion. It's a year of change, personally, collectively. There's a lot of change here. So just having that in mind at the start of the year, I think is really important. On the 27th, January, that's when Uranus stations direct. All planets will be moving direct for quite some time until April 1st, which is our first retrograde in Mercury. Mercury retrograde, April 1st in Aries. That's where we start to see some of the fire themes show up in our Mercury retrogrades this year. But from that time, so all of February, all of March, we have all planets moving forward. And I always mark these dates down. In my personal life, I always know when the planets are moving forward, because that's the time when you want to do things. That's the time when opportunities come your way. It's also the time when you may overextend yourself, when you may say yes to too many things. You may overcommit yourself because everything seems possible. And it seems like you have infinite energy and infinite motivation. And you're just like, yes, I want to do that. Yes, that sounds awesome. And so I think that's great for projects that are a resounding yes, and for even relationships that are a resounding yes, jobs, moves, all those things. If it's not a resounding yes, take a deep breath and pause and plant yourself in midsummer and think about who you're going to be in midsummer or even in the fall. And are you still going to want to say yes to these things that are coming up for you in March when you have all this energy? And, you know, in the summer, that's when all of our retrogrades begin and the energy just kind of backpedals. You're like, I'm going to put that on the back burner. Oh, you know, let's just save that for next year. And so, you know, it's really important during this time with the all planets moving forward to be focused, to use that energy towards what you want to move forward with, to what you want a long-term commitment with. So when it is mid-July, you're like, man, I'm glad I said yes to that. And the ball is still rolling and I'm still rolling with it and I'm not burnt out, because that can happen a lot with the all planets moving direct. We overextend ourselves and then we find ourselves burnt out with no energy, no focus. We forget what's really important. And we're just like, okay, I'm just quitting all of it, quitting all of it. And, you know, and there is that more so this year than any other year, because we have a lot of influence of Uranus and a lot of influence of Aquarius, which I'll talk about in a moment. There is going to be that tendency to just go, I'm done. I'm going to go sail around the world. I'm done with this. And to kind of just dissociate from life in a lot of ways. So there will be that kind of tendency. So you need to take care of your energy, make sure you're grounded, and watch that you don't burn yourself out, especially in these first couple months, because the energy is moving quickly. And even though we're still in winter in the Northern Hemisphere, and that is a time of rest and renewal, the energy is still moving. And by the time we get to the end of this month, it's going to move even more quickly. So just be aware of that as kind of an overall theme for the next couple months. Is just tend to your energy, make sure you're replenishing, schedule in time for self-care, restore yourself, watch for saying yes to things that are not a resounding yes, watch for overcommitting yourself. Okay, getting into some transit. So that's kind of just like some themes to really work with. We have coming up in 2 days, Pluto enters Aquarius. This is one of those days that if you're in Australia, it's going to be the next day for you. This is going to be the 21st. Because in astrology, things happen in moments in time, right? So it's the same moment in time everywhere, but it's going to be a different time depending on the time zone. So that's a little explanation of that. I get that question a lot. Like, you know, is this happening for me at the same time? Yes, it's the same moment in time. It's going to be a different time on the clock if you're in California versus Australia, maybe even a different day. So we do have Pluto entering Aquarius this weekend, Sun entering Aquarius. We are shifting into air, right? There's that air theme that we're going to start seeing coming up in this year. So Pluto has, you've been in Capricorn, took a little dip into Aquarius last spring. I don't know if you remember that, for 2 months, and went back into Capricorn. It's been in Capricorn since 2008. Pluto stays in the sign for a very long time, and it really impacts the collective to a very large degree because it's in a sign for so long. So the outer planets, where they're positioned, makes a greater impact on the collective energy because it takes them longer to go around the sun. And so they stay in a sign for a longer period of time. So when you look at something like Mercury, Mercury is in a sign for like 3 weeks, unless it's retrograde. And so, it has less of an impact than, say, Jupiter, which stays in a sign for a year, right? Pluto stays in a sign for a very long time. It will enter Aquarius. It will leave during a retrograde in September. It will re-enter November 19th, and then it will stay in Aquarius for 2 decades. And so we're seeing some themes come up that won't happen overnight. Pluto is not going to create shifts overnight, but we are seeing the stage being set for the next 2 decades. And so that energy is going to start shifting. We already felt some of that. Pluto is the sign of healing, of shadow work, of deep psychological inquiry. It also rules different systems, different structures, cycles, right? Cycles of life, cycles of the universe, cycles in society. And in Aquarius, we're going to see this being transferred to the collective. So in Capricorn, Pluto is very much about centralized governing bodies, right? Providing structures to centralized governing bodies, seeing those cycles take place. Pluto in Aquarius, we're going to see more self-governing. We're going to see, that's why everybody's saying power to the people, right? We're going to see the disbursement of power to smaller groups. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the French Revolution, for instance. That was actually when the Constitution of the United States was drafted, was when Pluto was in Aquarius, we the people, right? So that really can kind of tell you and signify that energy of Pluto in Aquarius. It's bringing power to the people, to the smaller groups. And so we will see a lot of that show up. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but an example of that would be like if the United States broke into states, right? And they're self-governing states. That's kind of what the energy looks like. Again, I'm not predicting that's going to happen. I'm just saying that would be like a very Pluto and Aquarius thing, is this disbursement of power. So we will start seeing that. All themes of Aquarius are going to be highlighted, certainly during the sun season of Aquarius, but then because of Pluto in Aquarius, it's going to be highlighting these themes of Aquarius. There's, of course, an underbelly to some of this energy. One of the big underbellies of this energy can be dissociation. So that's where that like not caring comes from, or like, I'm just checking out, I'm not dealing with this. Also, like, I don't feel like I belong here in a way. So there is this like darker side of losing our humanness here. And I think that's interesting when we look at it also, because Aquarius rules technology. We're going to see tons of things come up around AI over the next, I'm sure, 20 years, I'm sure in the next year. And so, Pluto with its structures and the systems are going to affect and say, okay, how is this affecting our technology? And, how should we use AI? What rules should be around AI? Is AI taking us away from our humanness? Is it taking us away from our individuality, right? Aquarius is about individuality, or is it helping it, right? So, these are the discussions we would expect around Pluto and Aquarius. How can we use AI and technology to benefit everybody, right? So we're bringing it to the people, we're bringing it to the collective. How can we bring these things, these advancements to everyone, so everyone has access to technology and the advancements in society? And so we're looking at that. But there is that underbelly of like just stepping away from it all, like I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to deal with this. This isn't me. I'm going off into the woods, going off grid, which like I'm a huge fan of that. If you want to do that, do that. If that's your calling, that's your calling. Just watch if you're doing that because you just want to avoid some of the growth that's being asked of you, right? By just checking off and running off into the woods and unplugging. And it may be that like more people need to do that, right? And that might be part of their Aquarian adventure, because with all this energy in Aquarius, it is going to really ask you the question of who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be in society? How do you want to contribute to society? What is your part in society? Do you care what society thinks about you? Are you letting expectations limit your healing? And then with that Pluto, we're dealing with shadows, right? So are you able to confront your shadows? Are you able to go within? Are you able to look at the cycles of your energy and understand them and really rise above them in a healing way that allows you to connect with your authentic vibration and show up in the world how you need to show up to contribute your personal power to the collective, to give rise to everybody? And so, we're seeing like that's a big theme of Pluto and Aquarius. I'm being mindful of the time because I feel like I could talk this entire hour Pluto and Aquarius. But we're really like looking at the truth. So that's what I would really encourage you as we work with some of this energy is look at the truth of who you are and really be brave enough to confront those shadows and do the shadow work that you need to do for your own healing, knowing that when you heal, you're able to contribute to the collective in any way possible. And also with Pluto and Aquarius, it's really important to expect the unexpected. And so, I also want to say that like, it's kind of a wild card, right? Like a lot of things can happen, and it could be, and watch if your mind goes to destruction and chaos with that statement. So we do want to like watch what we're kind of like programmed to think, because we are in this time of transformation and change. And what does that statement mean to you? Are you immediately like going towards like negative scenarios that cause transformation? And just being aware of that, but also knowing that like there is a wild card here in this year. And so there is something unexpected that could happen. And it could look like AI curing cancer. I don't think that's going to happen. It would be great if that happened, but just as an example, there's some wild cards here, and I'll talk about that. It ties into another aspect happening in April. But so just, expect the unexpected. Make sure, going back to that grounding piece, that you're grounded, you have that stable foundation to return to always, so that if a wild card shows up in the collective in your life, you have yourself to return to, you have your grounding to return to, you can return to your power and you can own it. You can own your power, right? To stand in your authentic vibration, no matter what is occurring around you, and watch that tendency just to be like, I'm done with it all. Okay, so going on from Pluto and Aquarius, again, I could talk about it on and on and on and on, because Aquarius is this like it's our innate genius, right? So that's what you're finding is your innate genius. And so to really work with this, it's like, okay, do the healing work, do the shadow work to find your unique genius, and then bring it forward to the collective. And also expect that other people are doing that. And that's why this time can be full of inventions, especially in the realm of technology. And so we are expecting that to happen. There could be some paradigm shifts and technological breakthroughs. This is a year for that. Okay, so we have that happening, and then things are kind of quiet in February for the most part. And once we get into March, we have our first eclipse season, which starts March 19th. That's also the day of the March equinox, also the start of Aries season. So there's gonna be a lot of fire happening. There's gonna be a lot of activity, a lot of energy through Aries season. This is going to be a very dynamic, maybe even dramatic season. So be prepared for that. And also that's the time, like if you're wanting to know when to launch something like a product, a blog, a podcast, like that's the time to do it, is end of March during when all this energy, Aries, new beginning. We have eclipse season. We have our first eclipse of that season in Libra. It will be a lunar eclipse. So that's a full moon eclipse on March 25th. That will be very much about relationships and about, okay, which relationships are serving me? Which ones do I need to break free of? How are these relationships affecting my growth? How are they affecting, again, getting back to that concept of individuality, authentic expression, vibration? How are my relationships impacting all of that? So those are like your central themes for the year. And so when we're dealing with eclipses, full moons, new moons, any other transits, coming back to how is it affecting those central themes within you? How are they affecting your healing? How are your relationships affecting, helping, distracting from your healing? These are questions that are going to come up in that lunar eclipse. And then we do have our first Mercury retrograde of the year in Aries on April 1st. So that will happen. Word about Mercury retrograde, it's not all bad. I think it does really open up the portal for inward communication. So I always mark the times of retrograde in my personal calendar as a time to go in, journal, self-inquiry. That's the time to do some of the deeper work that you may have been avoiding. That's the time to reprocess events that need healing. That's the time to reframe situations so that you can highlight a different perspective. Mercury retrograde really brings us those opportunities. So it's not all bad. I always do say, like, be mindful of your calendar appointments. There's miscommunication that can happen, especially with meetings. If you're meeting somebody for coffee or a work meeting or something like that, just double check the time, flights, all of that. Just double check things. Like, that's the time you want to double check everything. Double check contracts, double check quotes on Instagram for typos. I think we almost always have a quote with a typo on Instagram during Mercury retrograde. It's a spirit daughter thing. But it's like that double checking, right? And the details that you need to do in Mercury retrograde. But it is this amazing time to really go within and do some self-inquiry, some journaling, spend extra time journaling during the Mercury retrogrades. And then we have the total solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th. This is like the highlight of the year. Other than Pluto in Aquarius, this is like the event of the year, because it's going to be a total solar eclipse, meaning we will have night during day. This will be viewable from much of North America. And so there's a belt going across North America. And we'll I have a blog scheduled for like mid-March. It's going to give you all the details of when to see it, how to see it, where to see it. We're looking at places in Texas like Austin, Dallas, Little Rock, Arkansas, I think Buffalo, Cleveland, Ohio, up into parts of Ontario. So, it's a band that runs across the United States. And if you're in this band, you'll be able to see the eclipse in totality. And it will be amazing. I don't know if any of you saw the eclipse in August 2017, but it will be like that. And it will be actually longer. So the eclipse itself will be about over 3 hours, and totality will be over 4 minutes, which is actually kind of long for totality. So I think totality can only ever go up to 7 minutes. And the last one was a little over 2 minutes in 2017. So, this is a huge event. It's Aries. We're dealing with this new beginnings, new moons, the start of the astrological year. We have Mercury retrograde. I was actually just writing the Aries workbook, and I think I say no less than 3 times, do not write intentions unless you are crystal clear. right? If you are crystal clear, it is going to be a very, very powerful time to write intentions and put them out into the universe. But you have to be 100% committed to them. And so again, going back to that grounding, going back to that resounding yes, going back to that authentic vibration, what rings true for you. And that's going to really come up with this Aries eclipse, because this is going to be about your life's mission, your life's purpose. What are you here to do? What are you doing? Is that in alignment with your life's purpose? How can you contribute to the collective through your purpose, through your mission? How can you align with your soul, and what just like feels right to you? What motivates you? Flip side, Aries warrior, right? How are you battling yourself? How are you doubting yourself? How are you limiting yourself with self-doubts, beliefs that don't support you? How are you at war with yourself? Right? So, I'm always looking at the evolution, how we can harness this energy to grow ourselves, right? Evolve ourselves to heal, and so that we can contribute our energy and in the way we need to, we're aligned with. We'll also be dealing this day a lot with your personal lunar nodes, one of my favorite topics. So eclipses happen at the lunar nodes. North node is currently in Aries, south node's in Libra. And so we all have personal lunar nodes. And I always encourage people before a major eclipse to look up your personal nodes, find out where your north node, where your south node is. If you only see your north node on a chart, your south node is always directly opposite of it. And your north node is where you're headed in life. It's the energies you're here to embrace. The south node is what you brought in with you. And it's most likely energies you're attached to, and especially the lower vibrations of the sign. And so they may be blocking your growth. We often resist the energies of our north node initially. So this is our karmic path this lifetime, is to walk from south node to north node. And eclipses help us do that. They come in and they say, okay, let's cut the cord to those attachments, to those things blocking us, to those things that we came into this world knowing, and there are comfort zones, right? Let's step out of them and let's embrace the energies of our north node. And the eclipses can really help you do that. And especially this solar eclipse in Aries, because it really is about you and your purpose and your life's mission, and feeling that and deciding who that is, and showing up there, right? And then we still have Pluto in Aquarius, which is also very much about that, right? Who are you in this world? What are you here to do? And how are you, helping the collective, and in a way that you're contributing your energy the way it's meant to be contributed. And so when I say like help the collective or find your mission, some people like interpret it like, oh, we have to all go out and become healers or teachers. And that's some of our life path, right? To become healers or teachers, but your life path may be something else. And, it's finding what's aligned for you. Like you might supposed to be like an architect or something else, like it doesn't have to be within the healing arts. So I like to say that because I think a lot of people hear me when I say that, and they interpret it like, oh, I need to like find some way to become a healer or a teacher or a mentor or something like that. And while that's great, and obviously the world needs that, the world also needs architects and a whole bunch of other things, like maybe you're supposed to contribute to the development of AI, so it's finding your unique genius, your life's mission, feeling your authentic vibration, and aligning with how you can show up in the world and contribute that in a way that's aligned with you, right? That's aligned with you. Nobody else is like you. Nobody else has your exact energy. You have something that's unique, and we all do. And that's the thing. We all have something unique. So in a way, we're all special and nobody's special, right? Because we all have something and we're all equal in the same type of way, right? And that's a very, very Aquarian idea. Again, getting back to this theme of Aquarius is like, you have a unique energy and everybody has unique energy, and everybody's unique energy is equal to everybody else's, even though it's unique to them, right? So again, we get into this with Aquarius, some of these sort of more expansive, we have to expand our consciousness to really say, okay, like what does that mean? But understanding that. And so again, with this eclipse, we're going to be dealing with who are you? How are you showing up in the world? What do you need to detach from? How are you going to align with your life's mission and your life's purpose? Okay, so that's April 8th. April 20th, we have another unique aspect. It's pretty important. Some say this is one of the more important aspects of the year. Jupiter is conjunct Uranus, right? So Jupiter, Uranus, they meet in Taurus. They're together in the sky. That's the exact conjunction that date, April 20th. They'll meet at 21 degrees Taurus. They will be near each other for quite some time. So we'll start to feel this energy about a month before. Again, with that around the time, March 19th of Aries season, of the start of eclipse season, of the equinox. We're going to start to feel this Jupiter conjunct Uranus energy. And then that will last until May, the end of May, May 25th, when Jupiter leaves Taurus and enters Gemini. So Jupiter's having quite the year. And Jupiter expands, right? Jupiter is expansive. It's optimistic. It's everything you feel on a great day, right? When you wake up and you're like, this day is amazing. I feel motivated. I feel expansive. Like everything's happening in alignment. Like I'm just like flowing through life and I feel like I have my magic, right? I went to this friend and she'd always like say like, oh, I lost my magic. And I talked to her like a week later. I got my magic back, you know? And it was just like, because it was like when she felt in alignment and not in alignment. And so Jupiter's like, you've got your magic, you know? And so it's this like expansive sign. It really helps us kind of expand past our comfort zones, past what we even think our potential could be, right? Uranus is the planet of breakthroughs, right? Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. And so it has those similar themes as Aquarius. So breakthroughs, shocking revelations, unexpected, right? This is a lot of unexpected technology, advancements in technology. Quite interesting. Uranus was discovered the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, right? So again, going back to Pluto and Aquarius, expect the unexpected. Imagine thinking that the solar system stopped at Saturn and then discovering Uranus out there, another planet, like, you know, mind blowing back then. So, you know, Uranus, very shocking, right? Its whole nature is shocking. Its existence is shocking. So, you know, when we pair Jupiter and Uranus together, we're looking at like breaking through, not in a shocking way, but in a way that you might not expect yourself to expand, right? And so there's an opportunity here to expand in an unexpected way, to break through your limitations, to break your own rules, right? So we have rules that we live by, mantras, affirmations we tell ourselves, what's possible, what's not possible. This conjunction can help you break through all of that. It can also help you break through technology and technology barriers. And some technology may expand so much that it breaks, right, during this conjunction. That's sort of a collective piece. So that can look like we were worried that we were going to break the rules of the Zoom meeting by the amount of people who signed up for this forecast. I think we're doing okay. Probably won't know until the end. But you know, that I was like looking at Jupiter and Uranus and I was like, yeah, that fits the bill. Like when you expand so much, you have so many people that you're breaking the rules of Zoom, of technology, right? So we can look at this, we look at these aspects, these transits on sort of a more global level, even like a kind of a simpler level, like, you know, simply put, Uranus can be technology and Jupiter's expansion. And we put them together and like, okay, we're going to see advancements in technology that might be unexpected during this time, which will be, you know, a two-month period, right? From about mid-March until that May 25th date when Jupiter enters Gemini. And so we could see, you know, when we talk about seeing the unexpected with Pluto and Aquarius, this is the time frame that we may witness the unexpected happening with this Jupiter Uranus. And it doesn't have to be super negative. You know, it could be very positive. And, you know, you want to hold space for the unexpected being more positive, right? And that's part of our power, I feel like we have as the collective, is you can look at some of these transits and you can go into a doomsday spiral and you can say like, oh, like what's going to happen? Like it's going to be something horrible happening. Or you can look at them and say, you know what, I'm going to hold the vision of something positive happening. There's going to be an unexpected advancement in technology that's going to be super positive, or there's going to be an unexpected change in systems and structures of leadership that's going to be positive, right? You know, or conversely, you can look at it the opposite way. But you have the power, you have the free will, and I feel like that's when people come to my page and they learn about me, they're like, oh wow, you're so positive, like all the messages are so positive. And I try and really stick with that because I do feel like if I can help you all influence you into holding the positive vision of these higher vibrations that are possible with these transits and the aspects, and enough of us are holding the vision of positive vibrations, then that's what's going to happen, right? Because we do craft this reality, right? And so you know, helping you all really understand the positive vibrations and holding the vision. And so when we're dealing with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, thinking about how the collective itself can expand, and then thinking about you, like how can you break through your limits? How can you break through whatever is holding you back? How can you advance in a way you've never expected before? Right? How can you like break the limits of your own rules and boundaries and the things that you say are possible and not possible? And so there's a real potential here with this energy. And there is, you know, there can be like a very swift turn in a different direction in the collective and in your personal life, right? So that is possible here. And so just like holding the vision of that being a positive vibration for you and for everybody else. So yeah, so we have that. So April is going to be action packed. Actually, starting Aries season, action packed. Like I said, I'm writing the Aries season workbook, and like I'm out of pages. I need to plan a meeting with the person who lays out the workbooks, because I'm like, we need more pages because there's just so much going on in Aries season. So be prepared for that. Have your tools in place. Be prepared for the eclipse. If you're going to go see it, make sure that, again, we're dealing with Mercury retrograde, so make sure your travel arrangements are detailed and double checked and all that if you're traveling to see the eclipse. And make sure you remember your eclipse glasses. We had a large discussion the last eclipse about eclipse glasses. So make sure you will need your eclipse glasses. And that's like a detail you could forget, especially if you're traveling, it's Mercury retrograde, all of that. So, you know, make sure you have that. And then, yeah, be open to this Jupiter conjunct Uranus. You can also look at the house that Taurus is, and for you, so you want to look at your chart and find 21, 22, 23. You could probably actually start at like 18, maybe even 17, like 17 to 24, 25 degrees Taurus in your chart. See what house that's in, and that's going to be the area of your life that will probably be demanding change at this time during this conjunction. And then also look to see if you have any planets there, because that's going to impact greatly as well. Like if your sun is at 22 degrees Taurus, you're going to be really impacted by this Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And that goes for all these transits, right? You always want to know the degree that things are happening, and then you can look at your own chart and you can say, okay, what house is this for me? So even Pluto and Aquarius, we're really looking at like 0 to 2 degrees Aquarius with the Pluto and Aquarius this year. Pluto moves like really slowly, so it's only really going to get to 2 degrees Aquarius. But where is that for you? What house is that for you? And that's what's going to be affected for you, that area, right? Houses are areas of your life by this Pluto and Aquarius. So that's how we start to translate the current astrology onto our charts, is by first just looking like, okay, what degrees is this happening at in the current astrology, and what degrees, where do those degrees fall in my house or in my chart, what house? So you want to look at that. And we talk about that. That's why we always do like by rising sign or the horoscopes, or we do house scopes in the workbooks. That's what we're really looking at, is the house for you that's affected by the new moon, full moon, what have you. Okay, and so then we're a little quiet, and then Jupiter enters Gemini May 25th. So again, Jupiter changes signs once a year, very impactful. Jupiter in Taurus was it's still in Taurus. It's really grounded. It feels nice. It's solid. It's passive. There's change, but it's kind of like slow change. Jupiter in Gemini moves quickly. It's active. It's going to open your mind. It's important to remain curious. It's important to watch your communication. Make sure you're not over communicating, especially when we get into a Mercury retrograde. It's going to expand your conversations. It's going to expand the conversations of the collective. All of a sudden, people are going to be talking, and they're going to be debating, and they're going to have different perspectives, and things are going to expand exponentially in the communication front over the summer and into the fall. And so there's a real shift, and this is where we feel the air like really starting to take over mental realm. Everybody's just going to be wanting to share their perspective, share their side. We want to be careful for debates. We want to be careful of know-it-all, right? So Jupiter and Gemini can lead to like a I know everything kind of energy. And so you want to be really aware of that, and notice when you're engaged in one of those conversations where you almost feel like baited into defending your point even more. And if you notice yourself like going into that like defensive mode of communication, like step back and breathe. The antidote to like the lower side of Gemini is always the breath. So that's, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So we're always dealing with this with Mercury in retrograde. Anytime you feel your communication get out of hand, oversharing, too much gossip, complaining, defensive communication, debating for the sake of debating, you want to take a step back and just breathe, go back to those grounding practices, right? Ground your fire, ground your air, right? Bring it back to that base. And that's going to be important with a Jupiter entering Gemini. And then May 18th, actually, right before that, we have the Jupiter Cazimi. I always flag this on my calendar. Cazimi, by the way, Cazimi's gotten a lot of spotlight in the last year. That's just like when the sun meets a planet. So when you hear like Venus Cazimi, that's if Venus is conjunct with the sun. Jupiter Cazimi is Jupiter is conjunct with the sun. I always flag that Jupiter Sun meeting because it's always been touted as like the luckiest day of the year, like if you're going to play the lottery, that's the day to do it or go hit Vegas or something. But I flag it just because I always find it a pretty expansive day, a happy day, an optimistic day. Again, if you're launching something, that's a great day to launch something. Is that May 18th day. That's when you're going to be really well received by the collective, because when Jupiter and Sun are together, it's just like a good vibe. You got to imagine these energies like at a party, like Jupiter's like the jolly one and the Sun's like bright and shining, and like they get together and it's just this like really good feeling. And so anything you're putting out into the world is going to be well received, because people are just going to be feeling good, and you're going to be feeling good, and you're going to transmit that, right? So I always like to flag that day for people. And then we get into another Mercury retrograde over the summer. August 4th through August 28th. That's going to be Virgo to Leo. So again, we're seeing fire in our Mercury retrogrades. Our final Mercury retrograde is in Sagittarius, November 25th to December 15th. And so we're seeing a lot of fire in our Mercury retrogrades this year. They're usually themed by an element, and then that contributes to the overall theme of the year. Like when I'm looking at like, okay, what does this year feel like? I look at the element that Mercury retrogrades are in predominantly. And so we're seeing a lot of fire with our Mercury retrogrades. And so that can lead to like heated debates. I think we're going to be around a lot of heated debates this year. And again, the antidote is the breath, is to step back, to ground to the earth, to simmer the fire, to watch if you're being pulled in or engaged into conversations that just like make you feel triggered, right? So you're going to be really looking at your triggers this year. This is a year to do that shadow work piece, like we were talking about with Pluto and Aquarius. These Mercury retrogrades in these fire signs really lend to that shadow work of looking at your triggers, and your triggers, especially around like anger, frustration, impatience, restlessness. These are all energies of fire, right? So, and when you see them or you feel them show up in conversation, especially during a Mercury retrograde, but really any conversation, that's a cue to like step back, take some deep breaths, right? Maybe listen, maybe send energy to the person you're communicating with so that they can elevate out of whatever trigger they've just jumped into, and really like work with different types of communication, right? So we're not just always talking, there's like subtle forms of communication, which are more energetic. So when we're talking to people, we really can send them energy so that they feel supported, so that they're clearer in their mind. And this is a practice I say to do during every Mercury retrograde, because Mercury retrograde does lead to miscommunication and confusion. And so if you're talking to somebody, like anybody, during a Mercury retrograde, you want to try and send them energy. You want to listen intently and send them energy so that their thoughts become more clear to them. And especially if the element of fire enters the mix, right? Which fire has a range of energies, right? So we talked about the lower ones. Higher ones would be like motivation. But even when you're like in a conversation, say it's a great conversation and it's like feeling motivating, you're talking about a new project or this, right? You can work together or partner together. Like you still need to ground it and like simmer the fire and just like take a couple of deep breaths, send the person energy, get clear, or else it like fizzles out and burns out, right? And it could be like the best conversation in the world. You can have all these inspiring ideas, but like if it's not grounded and the air like takes over from Mercury, and then that fire, it just like fizzles out, right? So really like thinking about that imagery throughout the year of like, how can you ground the fire? And that's going to show up in all three of these Mercury retrogrades. So, and that first one being April 1st. I also want to flag that one ends April 25th. And so we have this window of February and March of all planets direct, and then we'll have another window of all planets direct, which will basically be, I guess it's just a couple days, because we have April 25th that Mercury stations direct, and then May 1st, Pluto's retrograde. So if there's anything you really, really want to get done, save it for those last couple of days of April. Like if you're kind of backing off because of the retrograde, because then after that, it's like some planets going to be in retrograde for the rest of the year, right? So these all planet direct windows are short and sweet, so we want to use them. So if you have something you really want to do and you really want to put into motion, and say you don't want to do it during that first retrograde in April, you can do it like the 26th, 27th of April before Pluto stations retrograde. I love these like little dates, because that's actually how I like structure things in Spirit Taught around like product launches and things like that. Like I look at these dates, that it's helpful. Okay, and so we get out of the summer, and then we're gonna have our second eclipse season starting. That will be in September, and that will be kicked off by a lunar eclipse in Pisces, right? Our first unexpected thing. Why Pisces, right? So this will be the first eclipse on the Pisces Virgo axis even though we still have the lunar nodes in Aries and Libra, and they won't shift for quite some time. Just the way the eclipse is falling, the nodes and the moon and the sun, we will have a lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 17th. It's going to feel a little off. I'm just telling you now, like I'm looking at it. I'm like, that just feels off. And probably in a good way. It's going to be dreamy. It's going to be time to kind of like take a vacation or it's going to be a pause in this like action, right? This year is like action, action, action. And then you get to this Pisces lunar eclipse and you're like, that's not action. that's sitting around and daydreaming and just like floating through the abyss for a little while. So like if you're going to take a meditation retreat or, spend some time just like doing nothing. I know September is usually like an action time because we're just all getting out of summer, but that would be that moment there in this year of like go, go, go. It feels like there's this moment with the lunar eclipse in Pisces that's just this time to kind of like, let's float in the sea to nothing. And then we will have almost a total solar eclipse. It's not quite total in Libra as well during that eclipse season. That'll be October 2nd. So we're still working with that energy of the Aries Libra axis on that eclipse. That will be about forming relationships that are aligned with you, that are aligned with your authentic truth, that are aligned with your soul's mission, and creating visions that really are a container for that. Because I say like create intentions and hold visions, and it's like they're a container, right? They're a container for your evolution, for the work you're doing on yourself, for your personal growth. And so when we write intentions for that eclipse in Libra in the fall, we're holding space. We're creating a container for relationships that support us, support our personal mission, support our soul's priority, right? Because that's a big theme of this year is diving into your authentic truth, your soul's priority, and really aligning with it, and not in a selfish way, in a way that like benefits everybody, and feeling the power you have to be part of the greater collective. And the reason why you're here, and we're all here together, we're all karmically tied together right now. And I think that's very evident, and we're all here together for a reason in this like web of karma, really. And so kind of finding your unique place in that web of karma that we're all in, connected with each other. And so, and then we obviously are going to have relationships, right? It's Libra really comes in and reminds us like, hey, the world is so much better when we share it with other people. But we want the right type of relationships that really support us and help us continue on our soul's path. And if you have two souls with individual paths, how do they walk together? And in a way that supports their individual paths, but then they can share with each other. And so this eclipse in October will be very much about that. And then we end the year off with Mars retrograde in Leo. So this is like fire going out with a bang. And that will actually continue through the year. So we'll be starting 2025 with Mars retrograde in Leo, because that doesn't end until February 25th. And so Mars retrograde, I will talk a lot about this when we get closer to it. Mars retrograde is a tricky one. And we just want to be very aware of it and very conscious of it. And again, this is one where we want to look at some of the lower vibrations and be aware of them. And we want to look at the higher vibrations and really reach for them, hold space for them, for ourselves and for the collective. Because Mars retrograde, that's when things get really fiery. I'm really glad that this is not like coinciding with the US election. It's happening afterwards. So that's good. That's good news. But this is when things get fiery in the collective. Because Mars retrograde just takes that energy of Mars, which is dynamic, it's explosive, it's that warrior energy, right? That can be funneled towards battle in a great way and battle towards a not great way. And so, that it spins it inward. And so then we feel that energy. And what are we going to do with that energy? Like, how are we going to act with that energy of Mars retrograde? Like, that feels like it's attacking us, right? It can feel like we're attacked by our own anger, by our own frustration at that point with Mars retrograde. And how do we process that? How do we deal with that as a person, as a collective? And so that can lead to various things. And I always tell people, like, the higher vibration of this transit is, if you're feeling if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling stagnant, it's like you want to go in and figure out why. And a lot of times we feel restless or frustrated or angry because we're not meeting our potential. We're not aligning with our life's mission. We're not doing what we know we need to do. We're not fulfilled in our life. We haven't found our purpose. And we feel powerless, or even hopeless, or we can't change certain things, right? And so we take that out on ourselves. We take that out on other people. We can see this anger kind of emanating from us, like it spins in, and then we just try and get it out, right? And we send it in all directions. And so, with Mars retrograde, the key to really working with it is to honor if you have those lower vibrations, if you're feeling those, and know that's okay. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel impatient. It's okay to feel frustrated with your life. Maybe you haven't gotten to where you want to be, or made the changes you wanted to make, or a potential is waiting for you and you haven't taken the leap of faith yet. Recognize that, honor that, hold space for those emotions, and then figure out how to break through and break out of that, so that you can really align with your life's mission. You can align with what you feel is your purpose, what fulfills you, what motivates you. How can you use the fire, right, for good, right? How can you channel it and use that fire? And so when we get to the end of the year, and it is like this end of the year, this whole year is about action, personal power, aligning with your authentic vibration, showing up in the world like you should, and you want to, and you can, and is meant for you to be, and contributing to the collective in a way that allows you to own your power to be you, and without the approval of anybody else. And if we get to the end of the year and you feel like you haven't done that, that's when all those lower vibration of Mars, and especially with Mars in retrograde, are going to begin. And so you want to be aware of that. It will be a time of reflection, and it will be time to break out of that and be very aware if you're throwing fireballs in chaotic directions because you've got this frustration within. And so that's kind of my take on Mars retrograde. I would think of everything happening. That's definitely one to just be aware of. And I'll talk about that as we get closer. But overall, I think it's just this year of action. It's a year where we can really step into our power, show up in our power. It's time to, last year was a 7-year, and it felt like a time to kind of go within, be in our cave, do some dreaming, kind of figure some things out. And this year it's okay, it's time to put some plans and actions, kind of time to do. And also, it's time to just make those breakthroughs, and then, be grounded through all of it, because any kind of change, this is definitely a year of change. Any kind of change on a personal or collective level really asks that you stay grounded within yourself. So if the unexpected happens in the world, if you have your grounding practices within you to return to, you're going to make it through in a calm and centered way that's going to help everybody around you, right? If you can remain in this calm, centered vibration, it's going to help everyone else around you. And so that's a big theme of this year, is having that groundedness within you to always return to, so that you can remain centered throughout the unexpected. If curveballs do happen, and they could happen within you, if you go through change and breakthrough, and you step into your power, and you move around your entire life, you need to hold space for all the emotions that come up. It can feel very tumultuous when we do that. Like when we change our lives, even for the better, like when you start manifesting your highest visions, it's scary. Like things change. We love our comfort zones. We love the familiar. Like that's how we're hardwired in our brain to cling to the familiar. And so, and we do so many things to cling to the familiar. And when you actually step out of that and you own your power to really create the life that you want to live and show up the way you want to show up and be who you're meant to be, scary. And those breakthroughs can be enough to send you like back into your comfort zones, because it's just like, I can't deal with this. I can't confront my manifestations. I heard that today. Somebody said that to me and I was like, I like that, because you do, when you start manifesting your visions, you have to confront them. You have to like be like, oh, okay, this is happening. I've got to go with it. And it can be very scary. And so again, you just need that grounding within you to really help you through as you grow, as you expand. So you don't limit yourself. So you don't contract out of fear or of the unfamiliar or the unknown. And then that goes for the collective too. So whatever happens in the collective, whatever happens in the world, whatever happens with technology, like you're grounded within yourself. You return to yourself and you find that stable base within yourself. So I think that's all. I think that's it for 2024. I know that eclipse is coming. We'll bring you a lot more information, where and when and how to see it. It's going to be a spectacular event for, and we'll all feel it. Like, even if you can't see it, you'll feel it, because it's going to just ripple. It'll ripple around the world, that energy. So all right. Well, I think it's going to be a great year. It feels like a tipping point of a year where, we really could choose some of these higher vibrations and really hold the vision for them. And hopefully enough of us can do that. We can kind of reach this critical mass where we're, uniting as a collective and really reaching the true Aquarian age, which we've been entering for quite some time. We're getting there, and this is a step towards it. But I will see you all probably on the Instagram, and have a wonderful day. For those of you watching it a day or week later, see you all then too. Bye.